The little evil has been put into the potion. Answer. The old man Ji San smiled and saw that this kid really jumped into the medicine water, and most of the jealousies and suspicions in his heart were gone. He already believed that Xiaoxie had that Xian Baolu, and he began to memorize every sentence that Xiaoxie said. He thought, wait 21 days and 1 week, if I can do it and cook it for 21 more days, then he has already told me all the treasures, and I will slap him with one palm, and then I will be invincible in the world, haha. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh wildly, and the laughter was like a harsh night island. Han Ling thought that he had some intention to succeed, so she hurriedly looked at the medicine barrel and lost it, and saw that Xiaoxie was still sitting inside like a bodhisattva, and she didn't know whether she was dead or alive, and she was extremely uneasy in her heart. Ji Sangxiao paid a lot of attention to the fire. He didn't dare to forget the words of the little evil. He couldn't be too weak or too fierce. This serious image was really rare. Although Han Ling helped to fan the fire, she looked into the bucket from time to time, and she thought that as soon as Xiaoxie screamed, she would immediately knock down the medicine barrel so that Xiaoxie could escape from the medicine barrel. Xiaoxie held his breath in the medicine barrel to heal his wounds, and as soon as he jumped into the barrel, a burst of spicy heat had penetrated Xiaoxie's skin, and the pain was unbearable. He felt that this old man did not cut corners or add materials, and treated his injuries with peace of mind. The wound stinged, and Xiaoxie knew that the wound muscle had not yet died, and he could use medicine and true qi to force the wound together, so that the wound will not be scarred, leaving only a trace of red flesh. Of course, these are thanks to the 20 or so treasures of the world. The little evil is really a great blessing. First of all, he first exercised his skills and found that many veins and meridians had been cut off, and he had to force his luck to force them one by one. After another week of operation, the situation has improved. At this time, the water has begun to boil, and he attacks the little evil muscle Cao, and the little evil uses the golden needle to cross the A-cup ointment to introduce the extracorporeal medicine into the A-cup ointment to run the whole body to treat internal injuries. I saw that a trace of dirty blood had oozed from his Baihui A-cup ointment. The first exercise is the most important. The little evil must drain the blood stasis from the internal organs, and must also connect the acupoints and veins, and must also force the wound, otherwise the next exercise will have no effect. Ji San smiled and saw that the water was open. He wanted to see how Xiaoxie reacted, but he only saw Xiaoxie sitting in the bucket and didn't know whether he was dead or alive. Xiaoxie explained that he was not ready to move him, and Ji San Xiao didn't dare to touch Xiaoxie. Han Ling saw that the water kept boiling and grunting. Her heart sank. She really wanted to know the life and death of Xiaoxie immediately, but unfortunately Xiaoxie didn't react at all. Time goes by, and the moment. 2 moments. An hour. 2 hours. It's almost noon. Han Ling began to cry. She saw that Xiaoxie had been in the water for 4 hours, and there was no movement at all, and her heart felt as if she was pressed by 1,000 heavy stones. Xiaoxie knew that after 5 more weeks, he would be able to close the wound and connect the veins. After 6 weeks of practice, the blood stasis of the internal wound can be discharged, and the treatment can be over, and he is also worried that the fire will not be enough to hinder the healing. Ji Sangxiao's heart also began to heavily. He thought that this kung fu was too earth-shattering. Boiling it in boiling water for 4 hours, I am afraid that there is no such person in the world. Will the little evil die? On the third day of boxing, 2 hours had passed, and it was noon. Xiaoxie knew that if he had been lucky for too long, people outside would probably think that he was dead, so he would no longer add to the fire, and he might still be able to fish for himself, so he would give up all his efforts, and shouted in his heart, "Goose rice tofu." Ji Sangxiao thought to himself that Xiaoxie was probably dead. He was very tired of adding fire, but he still had such a little hope. It was the unparalleled martial arts of the Xian treasure record that supported him. Han Ling had already cried out, and she pushed the medicine bucket regardless of the old ghost. "What are you doing?" Li San laughed and shouted, stopping Han Ling. Han Ling choked up and said, "Old ghost, you killed Yang Xiaoxie, I want revenge." At this time, her martial arts have been lost, and if she is fanning the flames, it will not play much role in hitting the old ghost. The old ghost didn't dodge and shouted, "Girl, you wait a little longer, maybe he won't die and you will die like this, so let's wait for the sun to go down." Han Ling said quietly, "But that man has been boiling in boiling water for so long, I'm afraid he's already dead." Li Sangxiao thought the same, but he still had a glimmer of hope and said, "Wait and see, if you really die, you don't care about cooking for a few more hours, we will burn this wood and then talk about it." He pointed to a pile of wood on the ground, which was not a large pile, and the fire was like a rainbow, and the tongue of fire was rising. Soon the wood was almost burned again. The little evil has finished 5 weeks, and the last week is left, and it looks like it is about to be completed. But Li Sangxiao sighed in despair, "Girl, we have failed." He sat down sadly. Wow! Han Ling was disillusioned with Li Sangxiao's words, crying and about to knock down the medicine keg. Li San laughed anxiously, and immediately pulled her away and shouted, "Medicine is still useful when people die, you can't waste good medicine." Han Ling was pulled by him and fell to the ground, screaming sadly, "You killed the little evil, I want you to not get the medicine water." After saying that, she rushed to the medicine bucket again. Ji San smiled and gave her back. Han Ling really had no way to stay there, both sad and angry. Looking at the rest of the wood, he thought, "Why don't you distract him and then push the medicine barrel down?" Han Ling said, "Uncle, it's not good to leave the remaining wood, just burn it down. Make a helpless and moving image." And walked forward to pick up the wood and throw it into the furnace. Ji San smiled and saw that she no longer pushed the medicine barrel, nor did she stop her from throwing wood into the stove, so the fire increased again. Xiaoxie secretly said in the medicine barrel that it was dangerous, and he almost lost his efforts due to lack of firepower. Han Ling put the wood down, and when she saw Li Sangxiao's lawlessness, she pushed the medicine barrel along the way, but she quickly shook her hand and pulled Han Ling away. Han Ling has always wanted to get the little evil out, but she was always blocked by Ji Sangxiao, and she couldn't help but have a temper, and from time to time she walked around the medicine barrel, pushing it whenever she saw an opportunity. Ji San smiled and said, "I won't let you push it." He didn't get angry yet, and now he encountered Han Ling's unreasonable trouble, and his heart was already angry. The two of them are so consumed. As the minutes passed, the fire gradually decreased, and finally it was extinguished. Ji San smiled and saw that the person was extinguished. He sighed and said, "Don't push it, baby, let's scoop up this small watch and take a look." He looked depressed, like a defeated rooster, and slowly approached the medicine barrel to fish the little evil up. Han Ling also choked up and walked away. Xiaoxie secretly laughed and thought to himself, "They think I'm dead. Well, I'll die if I die, and I'm not a layman if I pretend to be dead." As long as he holds his breath, he looks more terrifying than a dead man. Li Sangxiao had fished out the body of the little evil, only to see that his whole body was covered with white mist, his muscles were red and the wounds had been closed, and there was no sign of being boiled at all. And Han Ling couldn't cry anymore, and she was overwhelmed with grief. The little evil thought, "What the hell are you pretending to be dead? This old ghost doesn't have much friendship with me, maybe he is still snickering after I am martial arts." This is bitter for Han Ling. Thinking of this, he had already opened his mouth and said gloomily, "Old ghost, come here." Li Sangxiao was shocked. The dead man was brought back to life, and he retreated a few steps in a row, looking at the little evil with a lost soul.